Greetings, and thank you all so much for allowing me to be a part of This Is My Brave Story. I am Dr. Carleah East. I am a CEO, a licensed mental health counselor, a wife, a mother, and all of these things, and I'm so excited of being a part of this. I wanted to make sure that I give really good detail as to what it means to be me, especially what it means to be me in this day and age. And what I mean by me is an African-American female psychologist. To be honest, therapy is something that, as you know, the Black community or people of color, we're not necessarily up to that. We're not open to that. And the reason why is because systematically, we've had very limited spaces in where we could be safe. We've had limited opportunities to share information and make sure that that information does not cause retaliation or does not cause harm to ourselves or to the ones that we love. And so the church began to be the primary place or space that we would meet and gather in order to share information. Now we have an involvement happening where individuals are finding that, yes, I need that spiritual side, but there's something more. I tell individuals all the time that there's a time and a place for certain aspects in our lives. And there's definitely always a time and a place for spiritual uplifting, but you also have to be aware of your earthly answers and responses too. And that's where I come in. Therapists of my caliber really only make about 12 to 15% of the total population in the US. So as you can tell, and as I'm explaining it to you, it wasn't written for me, right? Being a psychologist, being a psychotherapist, being a counselor, that blueprint wasn't written for a person of color. And it definitely wasn't written for a female person of color. We know predominantly we see white males between the ages of 45 and 65 in this particular realm. And so when I walk in the door every day and meet a new face or walk into a sea of faces when I do a presentation, I get to change and challenge that misconception. I get to change and challenge that stereotype that we hold on to for so long, because guess what? Our faces are often seen in the world. Now, because that blueprint wasn't designed for me, that meant that I had to break barriers. In order to break those barriers, I had to create my own blueprint. I had to take the design that wasn't made for me and make it for me. And as a person of color, that is the first thing that you have to do in anything in life, is you have to make and take what is provided and make it yours and make it original to you, because that is the only way you're going to survive and feel happy and proud about who you are. You cannot just put yourself in the shoes of somebody else or, give yourself a script and you just go by that. As you know, it's not authentic and it doesn't allow you to share your story. The other thing that I love about what I do is I have this platform of using my voice in order to share nuggets, to give insight, to give information. So in recreating that blueprint, I also had to redesign my mind as far as how I reach my group. What purpose do I serve? What is it that I'm supposed to be here for? And I realized that I am a bridge, and that is my story. I am a bridge. My job not only allows me to heal the minds, to provide hope, and to instill happiness, but it also gives me an opportunity to start a bridge between the African-American community and therapy, but also build a bridge between Black and white. Because as you know, there are things in our community of color that doesn't translate to other communities and vice versa. There's also the way that we speak that doesn't translate sometimes, all the time. I'll give you an example. One of the things about being in my field that I learned very quickly is that I get labeled. I either get labeled as being, aggressive when I'm actually passionate about what I do. I also get labeled as being white because I may not be urban enough or I don't speak down enough or whatever the situation may be. And so it's hard to be in that space because here I am, a person of color, willing and able and ready to serve my community 10 toes down without any question. And it's the same community that I'm serving and fighting to serve that has a problem with it. They may have a problem with me because they feel that I may not be Black enough, right? Then I have the other counterpart, which is my Caucasian sisters and brothers that I have to also bridge to help them understand how it is to work with our populations, how it is to serve, and what are some of the external factors and some of the internal, systemic factors of racism, the way we're sexualized as people of color, just all these different areas. How is that portrayed on us, and how do we better communicate through that? So that is my voice as a bridge, right? I also have to be reminded constantly that there may be this feeling that some people think I may be code switching because I'm choosing to use certain verbiage in order to educate. And my response to them is this: feel how you want to feel, boo, that's you, that's not me. That's the second thing you want to take away from this. Number one, you got to build it around you. Number two, you've got to let it go in regards to who is feeling some type of way about your movement, about your journey, about your path, because this is yours and yours only. And those naysayers and the thems and the those that want to say things and be in opposition with you, you can't be concerned about those that don't. You have to be concerned about those that do. So when my community necessarily didn't support me initially, or when I get questioned or called out, so to speak, from not being Black enough, I ignore that, because at the end of the day, I know who I am and I know whose I am. And honey, this color has never changed since birth. So I am Black, and I'm unapologetically educated in Black, and I'm okay with that. And so you also have to be okay with being your own authentic self, with being true to you, because you will constantly come up against people trying to decide what your value is. And you have to decide your own value. You have to know that your tears don't compromise your strengths. You have to know that there are times in your life that you need to put him or her on the shelf. You need to know that there are moments that you need to take a pause for the cause and recognize that you need to sit down, right? Because you're moving too fast. These are all the things that you come up against. But along those lines, you also come up against racism. You also come up against gender bias. You also come up against just people that are petty and hateful, because you have the nerve to be resilient. You have the nerve to have strength growing in your DNA, and you have the nerve to recognize that and walk with your head high. So I challenge you to continue to do so. You don't allow anybody to define you, because you are your own definition. And you stay strong and proud of who you are, whose you are, and what purpose you know you are to serve in this world. Because everybody that has an opinion will also think that they can tell you what you can and can't do if you choose to hear and listen to that opinion. But if you choose to take that and put it on the shelf with everything else that everybody's going to say about you, then you're one step ahead of the game. You want to keep fighting. You want to keep pushing, because you are brave. I am brave. And this is my story.